My name is Richard Morman, and I'm the Deputy Chief of Police here at the Ohio State University Police Division. I've been here for 27 years, and I started in 1986 as a patrol officer. And I've been in law enforcement since 1980, so I had 6 years of experience before I came here. But university policing is definitely different, although we do the same thing that your local city, state, or county sheriff's office may do as far as for the university. We have 48 sworn officers and have the same authority as the city police or the county sheriffs. And I have basically responsible for everything. Since I'm the deputy chief of police, I report to the chief. And the police division is actually one of 6 divisions within public safety. So we have the police division, we have hospital security, which has their own director that would be a peer of our chiefs, and then we report to the public safety director. And then there's University Security Services that work at the Wexner Center. They work overnight, like in the veterinary hospital, the Schottenstein Center, and some other things. They do walkthroughs of the dormitories also. And then we have the Communications and Central Dispatch Center, which is when you call 911 or you call even our general number 292-2121. That's a whole separate division. And then they also operate our video and alarm monitoring center. So any like fire alarm, burglar alarm, prop door alarm that goes off all rings in the same alarm center. And then they monitor all the video cameras around campus, which there are quite a few. Yes, for the most part, but I think that's a result of building the rapport between those out there in the media world and us. I mean, it has to be reciprocal. And I have a saying that I actually wrote down in my notes when I took public information officer training at one point, and that it was something like that information that is reported, even if it's not accurate, that stands as the truth until it's corrected. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that kind of concerns me oftentimes, and it's more in the television medium, they don't really like to correct things. I'm not sure why. Yeah. I notice print journalism seems to do it more often than TV. And I've talked to our media relations people here at the university about that, and they say that they just don't like to do it because it's old news and they want to move on to something else. But other than that, I think for the most part, you have to maintain that good report. There has to be that level of trust. And oftentimes, good reporters, especially investigative reporters, will find stuff out. And if you have that good rapport with them, and I might say, hey, can you hold off in putting that out at this point, because that could jeopardize the investigation. And oftentimes it will, where they may not have to wait. And then on the other hand, I might give you preference. I might call you first the next time. And we've had that experience. I can tell you that one of the local reporters here always told me, Richard, if you have a story that you want to get out there, I'll help you get that out there. And I called this person once, and it was about 8 o'clock in the morning. And the reason I bring this up is oftentimes the media seems to report on the stuff that happens, but they don't really do a follow-up story. Like, oh, there was 5 robberies on campus. Well, 2 weeks later we catch somebody. Oftentimes they don't want to run that. Yeah. So this particular incident, we'd had a lot of car break-ins. And so I called this reporter. I said, nobody called me. And I called her about 8:30 in the morning, and I thought I woke her up. Well, I did. She was on vacation in Seattle, Washington. It was 3 hours earlier out there. But she called her station, and they sent a guy out, a reporter. They did the story. So, again, it has to be reciprocal, I think. And the only other thing that concerns me, and I think it's because of where journalism is going now, it's more blended. We used to have TV, radio, and print, and now it's all blended because print has websites that has video on them and vice versa. And I went to a seminar probably about a year ago, and they had a rep there from the radio, the newspaper, and one of the local TV stations, and they talked quite a bit about that. And that's kind of the future of where it's going. So it's all going to be blended now. And television has always wanted that action shot, where radio, the interview might be a little bit different because it's all audio versus video too. And then print media seems to be kind of evolving to the point of they're doing more long-term, more in-depth kind of follow-up type stuff. They tend to do that sometimes. Yeah, and I don't know, I think it's probably what the news director gets. It's been my experience that oftentimes a reporter will come in and maybe just do a stand-up interview on camera, but then one particular station here in Columbus got to the point every time you did that they wanted action shots, and you know the reporter explained, well, that's our new news director. They want action shots, like walking down the street, talking, things like that. And so they might shoot, you know, the reporter and I walking through the lobby of this building, but then they dub in the audio that we just sat there and talked about like we are now. That's kind of concerning too. It's almost like making a movie, you know, piecing it together. Sometimes, and it depends on the area, it seems like things that happen at the university might get more attention or more coverage than if it happened in some other part of town. And I think it's because, you know, the Ohio State University is big news in Columbus. And, so, yeah, sure, in that vein I think it does, and specifically because of here. Now, I think also some TV stations tend to cover crime things more than others. I'm not sure why that is. Again, that might go back to the news director or the station ownership or whoever makes that call. I always try to watch, you know, the 6 o'clock news and what the lead story is on all three of them, and it's not always the same. Sometimes it's not, again, we're back to that not being reported accurately. But the problem I see nowadays is with all this instant communication and everybody in a rush to get the story out first, I think you see a lot more errors in reporting now, I guess, not accurate information. And I don't know what vetting process they're using. Aren't you guys supposed to have like 2 sources or be able to confirm information? I don't necessarily think that happens now. You know, I can give you an example of that. We put out an emergency alert when something, you know, dangerous is happening in a certain area. And one of the first times we did this, it was in the hospital area where we got one call that some lady called 911 and said, hey, some guy tried to grab me and wanted me to get in his car with him and said some crude things, and she ran away. And then within less than a minute, we're getting a second call in that same area from another victim. And then a third call. So we put out an emergency alert, and that's basically a 140 character alert, and saying what we know at that time, that we got 2 calls, dangerous situations, stay away from this area, and that's all we know. When we started, prior to putting these out, we met with all the local media folks and told them what this emergency alert was and emphasized that's the only information we know. When you call, when you hear that, if you call right away, we're not going to be able to tell you anything else. So when we sent that alert out on the 2 abductions or attempted abductions, we got 26 calls. So I told dispatchers to send them all to my phone. And some of them were kind of upset that they couldn't talk to somebody right then, but some of them were at the scene calling, asking me what's going on, and they're there, you know. And what happened in that case, some things was reported that we couldn't even verify first, but it was reported because the reporter seen or thought they seen something different than what it really was. So I think that's the dangerous part now. Prior to, you know, really social media and all this instant media evolving the way it did, you still got that occasionally, just bad information. But then again, you know, the reporters relying on information unless they witness something themselves, something that somebody else told them. We like to try to push out positive stories, community relations like stories. Undergraduate student government's very supportive of the police division, and we have the student safety service, which a major part of that operation is the escort service. We like to get that information out. They do more than just the escort service though. USG's been very supportive of that program. So the Student Safety Service is a program within the police division, and they have a full-time program manager, and it's all student employees after that. So that's something that we like to get out all the time. Feel-good stories, I guess. We don't want to be looked at as the bad guys all the time.
Right.
So anything we can get out to, help our image, the better. I wanted to emphasize that, there is some reciprocity and really just advice for you guys when you venture out into this world is that, build up a good rapport, if you're going to do the police beat, so to speak. And so it's always nice to be able to call somebody and say, hey, we made this great arrest, we'd like to get this story out, and people are usually jumping at. I think one, because it is a university, and then on the other hand, when you have that trust and rapport, I might be more inclined to share something with you, but say, don't put that out yet, but I'll call you. And some of the good reporters here, and there are a few, they'll call and they'll see something like on our daily log, and they can read between the lines sometimes. Just some of them have that knack. I guess it's experience. And I'm thinking, gosh, how did they know this? And they'd say, well, has anybody else called about this? And if nobody else has, I'm inclined to call that person back and say, hey, we made an arrest out of this case, and since you called about it, here it is. And then we might do that before we send a media release out. I mean, we try to be equal to everybody. If nobody's called about a case and we make a good arrest or something, we might just put together a press release and send it out to everybody and give it to everybody. But yeah, I think building the trust and having that rapport is very important. And trying to be accurate as possible.